All right, geometry. Hey, this is 2.2. I'm going to break this into two parts, so this will be the first of two parts here. But as always with geometry, we need to get into some just some kind of like definitions, some vocabulary, and some new symbols before we get on to the next thing here. So that's what we're going to do today here. We're going to start with this idea of a truth value. So a statement that is either true or false will have a truth value, often represented using a letter. Now, the letters that we use for these truth values are P or Q. Okay, so for P or Q, we use these different statements and we say, okay, is P true, is Q true? So typically, we'll make a statement, we'll call it the P statement. So we can say, maybe for the P statement, we say the sky is blue. The sky is blue. Okay, and then for the Q statement, we might say something like the ocean is pink. All right, so here the P statement is true. I don't know why that just disappeared. Let's go to this one instead. So here the P statement would be true, right? The sky is blue, that is true, but the Q statement, the ocean is pink, that would be false. So P and Q is just like a way that we identify a statement. So here we have another example. It says the P statement is a square is a quadrilateral. So the truth value to that is T. It is true. A square is a quadrilateral. Okay. A negation is simply the opposite of that, or we say not. Okay, so it's represented by this little squiggle. So not P. You can either write not P or you can use the symbol. But here it says, here's an example, it says if it's not the P statement, then we include this word not. Okay, so going back to the original P statement, we said a square is a quadrilateral. If we put this little sign in front of it, then we include this not. So a rectangle is not a quadrilateral. If we said not P in this case, that truth value is false, right? Because a rectangle is a quadrilateral. So that's called a negation. And then we need to go over this idea of a compound statement. That's when two or more statements are joined by the word and or. This is a little bit of English we're getting into here, but a compound statement joined by one of these two words. Okay, so we'll do a couple of those. So if we said something like, the sky is blue and the ocean is pink, then that whole statement there would be false, right? Because one part of it is false. But if we said the sky is blue or the ocean is pink, we could say that statement is true because at least one part is true. Okay, so we'll get into some more of that here in just a second. A conjunction is a compound sentence using the word and. So a conjunction is true only when both statements are true. Very important to get that in your notes. This is when we have two things. So here, I'll show you this to you with P and Q, right? So the P statement and the Q statement. So here it says, for the P statement, a square is a quadrilateral. And then for the Q statement, it says a square is equilateral. That means all sides are the same length, which we know is true. Okay, if both of those are true, we can show this conjunction with one of these little signs here. Okay, you might know it as like the power sign, because you're trying to show something to a power, and you can't put that little, in your computer, if you can't put the little 2, you often use this little caret sign, right? So this little caret sign means and. So here, if they ask you to write a statement P and Q, what you'll do is you write the P statement, which is this guy, and then you'd write the word and then you would write the Q statement. If the whole thing is true, we would say it's true. If half of it's true, we would say it's false. If any part of it's false, it's false. So that's a conjunction. So for 1A, we have P and Q. Remember, P and Q means that this is asking if both P and Q are true. They give us three things here. We're only going to focus on P and Q. So use the following statement to write a compound statement for each conjunction, then find the truth value. So here it says, the figure is a triangle. So you would write out the figure is a triangle. Okay, the fig is a triangle. And, that's meaning and, okay, because we have that little caret. and has two congruent sides. Okay, so then we got to look at the figure here. Is this a triangle? Yes. Does it have two congruent sides? Well, these little things tell me that those are two congruent sides. So yes, it does have both. So the truth value to this is T. It is true. Okay, so for 1B, this says not P and not R. Okay, so we have to put the words not in there. So we're looking at P and R. P and R, it's important to identify the statement first. So here we would say the figure is not a triangle, okay, and has three acute angles. Well, it turns out the figure is a triangle, so this statement is false, and then we already know that this one is false as well, because if we have a right angle, it's not acute. So these are both false, so the truth value to this is F. It is false because both statements are false. All right, a disjunction. So the first thing we looked at was conjunctions with the and sign. A disjunction is actually shown with a V-type sign, but typically it's not just a V, but that's all my computer would let me do. It's this little upside-down caret. So it's actually like a tiny little V that's hanging out up top between the two. And that just means or. Okay, so disjunction means or. It's true if at least one statement is true. So let's look at some examples of that. Here it says a square is a quadrilateral, and then here it says a triangle is a quadrilateral. This one is true, this one is false. But if we're saying or, either or, then the combined statement, a square is a quadrilateral or a triangle is a quadrilateral, it's true because at least this part of it's true. So if it's an or statement, if one is true, we say the whole statement is true even though this part of it here is not. That's called a disjunction. So let's do a couple of those. Here's 2A. It says R or P. So R or P. So if we wrote that out, we would say January 1 is the first day of the year. Okay. And then or January is a fall month. Okay, so we know that January 1 is the first day of our year, so we would say this is, since this is true and this is an or statement, because January is technically in winter for us, then we could say that this is true. Okay, so 2B, you can try that one out on your own here. This one is saying, I notice I use this V here, it's really confusing. It really should look like this, Q or not R. Remember that squiggle means not. Okay, so I'll help you write this thing out at first here. So it says January, and you might have to look at a calendar for this. January has only 30 days, or January 1 is not the first day of the year. Okay, we already know this is false. You might need a calendar here. I'm not gonna finish this one for you, but for some of these you might need a calendar if you're looking at dates. So what you need to determine is if this is true. If this is true, then the whole thing has a t value. If it's false, then it would be a false value. All right, and then there's 2C here, which is very similar. Again, this is P or not Q. Didn't we just do that? Oh no, because this one's looking at P. Anyway, okay, so continuing on here, you guys, the last little bit of this is page 100. This is a nice, so on page 100, you have a nice little breakdown of all these symbols and what they mean. So just make sure that's in your notes and you're comfortable with that. And now here for the last one, we're going to do one of these truth tables. Okay, so here, we don't know what the statement is, but if we know that P is true and Q is true, okay, then not P is going to be a false statement, and not Q will be a false statement. Okay, those will be opposite, so those will always be opposite. So here, if we have a true under P, then we would say this is false, right? And if this is false, then we say this is true, and vice versa here. So let's just get all these in. So now I'm looking here, right? And if Q is true, then we would say not Q is false. And if Q is false, we would say not Q is true, which is a little confusing because we don't know what the statements are, but we're assuming that if there really are a true statement, then the opposite of it would not be true. So here, this is they might have you fill out one of these truth tables. This says is not P, which now we know, right, because we filled it out, this guy, and not Q. So if those are both false, then we know that this statement would have to be false. Okay, and we'll just continue to look here at each one of these. This is an and statement, right? So in order for this to be a true thing, these would both have to be trues in an and statement. The only one that's going to be true, I know, is this one, because this is the only time they're both true. The rest of these will be false because at least one part is false. All right? So go ahead and try out number 9 here. This is an or statement, right? So this would be false, 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 true, true, false, true, true. Okay, so if it says, if either part of this is true, then we're going to say that the whole thing is true. The first one, they're both false, therefore this is a false statement. Here, the rest of these have a truth in them, right? So there's a true here, 2 truths here. That since this is an or, these will all be true. And I just call it the truth table, which helps us figure out, different scenarios of what could be true and false with pieces of information. All right, guys, that's it. I want you to be getting comfortable with that. So we're going to do a homework related to this, and then I'll pick up next time with the